Once upon a time, in a small, bustling town nestled between green hills and crystal-clear streams, there lived two girls who couldn't have been more different. One of them, Lila, lived in a grand house at the edge of the town. Her father was a successful businessman, and they had everything they could ever need: huge rooms filled with expensive furniture, wardrobes bursting with designer clothes, and a garden so large it looked like something out of a dream. Lila had everything she wanted, and more. Then, there was Emma. Emma lived on the other side of town, in a tiny cottage made of old brick and wooden beams. Her family wasn't poor in spirit, but they didn't have much else. Emma's father worked long hours at a local factory, and her mother sewed clothes for the villagers to make ends meet. They had enough to get by, but their world was simple and humble. Emma's shoes had patches, and her dresses were made by her mother's careful hands. But, despite the lack of wealth, Emma was rich in laughter and kindness. She found joy in the little things: the golden sunsets, the sound of birds chirping, the quiet moments with her family. One afternoon, after school, Lila was walking home from her private school, surrounded by her friends. Her long, glossy hair caught the sunlight as she chatted about her upcoming birthday party, which was going to be the event of the year. Emma, on the other hand, was making her way to the market to buy vegetables for her family's dinner. She noticed Lila and her friends laughing and talking in a group. Emma smiled shyly to herself, as she always did when she saw people like Lila. One day, fate decided to weave their paths together. Lila's family was hosting a grand garden party for her birthday, and her parents had invited everyone in town. Lila, always curious and kind-hearted beneath her fancy exterior, remembered Emma from school. Why not invite her? Lila thought. It could be fun to have someone new join us. So, she told one of her servants to bring Emma an invitation. When Emma received the shiny, golden envelope, her heart skipped a beat. She had never been invited to anything like this before. Her first instinct was to refuse. What would she wear? What if she didn't fit in? But then she remembered something her mother always said: it's not about the clothes or the fancy things. It's about who you are inside. So, she decided to go, even though her shoes were a little worn and her dress wasn't the latest trend. The day of the party arrived, and Emma walked nervously to Lila's house. The garden was filled with twinkling lights and laughter. There were people everywhere, laughing, eating, and enjoying the perfect afternoon. When Emma stepped into the garden, she felt a little out of place. But then she saw Lila, waving excitedly from across the crowd. Emma! You made it! Lila called out, her face lighting up with a smile. I'm so glad you're here. Emma smiled back, feeling the warmth of Lila's kindness. They sat together, chatting about everything from school to their favorite books. Lila asked Emma about her life, and Emma shared stories of her family, of how her mother made the best apple pie, and how they would sit around the table laughing together after a long day. As the evening wore on, Lila noticed something she hadn't expected. Emma's laughter was infectious. Her stories, though simple, made everything feel more meaningful. Lila was surrounded by wealth, but in that moment, she realized something she hadn't before: there was a richness in simplicity, a treasure in the joy of being with people you loved. When the party ended and the guests began to leave, Lila stopped Emma at the door. Thank you for coming, Lila said. You've made my birthday so much better than I imagined. Emma smiled warmly. I'm glad I came. I never thought I'd be at a party like this. But I think it's not about the party, really. It's about the people. Lila nodded, her heart feeling full. You're right, she said. And I'm glad to have met you, Emma. From that day on, their friendship grew. They spent afternoons together, swapping stories about their lives, learning from each other, and realizing that it wasn't the money or the fancy things that mattered. It was the kindness, the laughter, and the love that made life rich. And so, Emma and Lila learned that, in the end, the greatest treasure is friendship, something that no amount of wealth could ever buy. And they lived happily, side by side, in a world where the richness of the heart mattered most.